Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3.
Welcome and thank you for joining me, or thank you for joining us for the Backlit Cinema Podcast. I'm your host, Zo, Z-O, or Z-O, if you're outside of the U.S. We're taking a look at the movies of yesteryears. This episode is sponsored by the Book of Lies podcast. This is the sixth. I'm gonna get it out. The 67th episode. All right, it still didn't sound right. I'm sounding like Sylvester the Cat, but we're gonna move through this. Thank you for downloading or streaming. We really appreciate it. The reason we started the show was to strengthen the bond between my son Zach, me, Zoe. We watched movies that I loved when I was growing up in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s, and I'm going to tell you what Zach thought about these classic movies that we just watched yesterday. If you like this show, then rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Podchaser.com, or your favorite podcast app. And finally, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. You can find the details in the show notes. And now, without further ado, as promised, I have some very special guests, some guests I hold dear to my heart. There was a time when early in my podcast listening adventure, I was looking for a show that would talk about stuff that I wanted to listen to, that from a perspective that's similar to my own. I grew up a black nerd, and it's frowned upon to be a black nerd when you're growing up. Sure, it's cool now, but back when I was growing up, that joint wasn't cool. So I would like to introduce to you two people who have a podcast that is very dear to my heart. On my left, he is the captain of the spaceship, a Hollywood screenwriter, a fantastic podcast host, and a DJ extraordinaire. On my right, she is the Grand Duchess of Tech, famed author and columnist, incomparable podcast personality, and together they defend the kingdoms of nerddom on their outstanding podcast, For All Nerds. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you here right now DJ BenHameen and Tatiana King Jones. I gotta applaud you guys. I don't have an applaud machine, but I am applauding you right here, right now.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the intro. I should have told you my name is Tatiana King.
My bad.
That's all right.
I've been writing. I've been putting it on Twitter and everything. And sometimes I hear you say it. So I was sure. I was like, yeah, okay, maybe she got married or something. I don't know.
It's Miss King to everybody. But thank you so much for the beautiful introduction. Really happy to be here. I know BenHameen's excited too.
Word up. Thank you very much. Finally nice to meet you, Zoe, and be on this show right here. So thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. I very much appreciate it. And what I'm telling you is true. When I was first discovered even what a podcast was, I think that was, 2018, I guess. And I started finding shows. Normally you get the European Americans, their shows are like pushed to the top. So you start listening to that first. And then later on you start, where's my voice? Where are my people at? And you gotta look for your own people a lot of times. And then and I actually went on the internet search to find out, where are the black nerds at, right? and then I found you guys, and I was like, yeah, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I was looking for. This is going to fill that hole that had been developing in my podcast listening experience. So I'm glad that I was able to find your podcast, For Our Nerds, and I'm glad you're able to make it to this little show that I call the Backlit Cinema Podcast.
Oh, man. Thank you for having us, for real, and we're happy to be here, and we're happy to represent, we're For All Nerds. We are a podcast that distresses geek culture from the perspective of people of color, the voice of the urban geek, inclusion is revolution and all that good stuff. And yeah, we're here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So I had some questions. My listeners know that I am not a one to give great interviews. I'm not an interviewer. I'm just some dude with a computer. I just went to Best Buy and bought a couple of mics, and here I am trying to interview some of my heroes. But we're going to get it done. I'm going to ask some questions. They might be stupid. That might be too personal. It might get too deep, and you might say, no, we can't do that. But So if I get in there, just stop me. Just stop me right then and there. But
that'd be interesting. That'd be a first.
But I got but here's a question I want to throw out to the both of you. So given that you both graduated from Harvard, did you
wait.
Oh wait, not Harvard. It was
It was Howard.
No, Howard.
You had it right. I heard it coming out correctly.
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
Yes. The higher HU, yes.
Yeah.
Howard University.
The real HU.
Howard, right. So you both graduated from Howard. Did you do all of the touristy stuff, the touristy things while you were here in Washington, D.C.? Because I'm in the Washington, D.C. area. That's where I'm broadcasting from. That's where I live at. I'm in the DMV. I'm actually about 15 miles from the White House, I guess, southeast. Southeast from the White House. So my question was, so did you do the touristy things when you're here? Did you go to the monuments, the museums? Did you visit the cherry blossoms? Did you listen to the go-go music? Did you go to the street fairs, the Taste of DC? Did you do all of those things while you were here?
Those are a bunch of different things right there.
Like, and it depends, right? So like, I didn't do any of the typical touristy things, like go to monuments and museums. And I mean, I did that after the fact, right? After I graduated, when I came back and when
Obama won.
Right. Then
that's when I was
still a tourist at that point. But as far as did I engage in DC culture? Absolutely. Did I learn a lot? Was I educated on DC culture a lot? Yes. Didn't know anything about no go-go music, mambo songs, and I'm just touching on very surface levels things before anybody from DC come at me. But I did learn more about that being ingrained into the culture. Like DC is when I was there, the gentrification was just happening. So it was right in the middle of the transformation of the Howard area, now, where it looks like an extension of Georgetown at this point. And it's kind of wild seeing that I saw, like, I was literally there between the before and after. I graduated in 2009. So it's interesting because, like I said, I was able to still get that experience of being with people from the area and learning about the history of the area and learning about their contributions to Howard, to the neighborhood, how Howard students before me came and contributed to the neighborhood. And really, I would say my understanding of DC grew from Black culture, right? Like just how we, the music, the lingo, like everything about it just stemmed from learning through that. So in that way, yes, I did engage in it. Did I go to Washington Monuments and all that? No. I think I did go to the Cherry Blossom Festival like once, but yeah.
Yeah. I think I've been to the Cherry Blossom Festival in New York more times than I went in DC. And I damn sure didn't go to no monuments, but I was all up in that, like as far as DC, like I was at Howard before Tatiana. So I was in DC when it was Chocolate City. For real, when Howard was indistinguishable from DC, when it was lit, if you stepped one block off of campus, it was going down on Girard Street. It was going down on Hancock. It went down like, man. Yeah. Now I was all up in DC and I saw Chuck Brown live once. I'm good friends with Big G from Backyard. As a DJ, go-go just became like secondhand to me. I just love music in general. So go-go, once I saw it live, I became addicted to it, just like anything. I was playing some go-go earlier today. So,
I love go-go.
Yep. That's all day.
Yeah, I'm growing up, I spent most of my life outside of DC. So I wasn't really in that life like that. So but my brothers loved that life. It's like the lit area where I live at. That was Southeast DC.
Yeah, you was in it.
Yeah. So my brothers, especially my youngest brother, he was all about Southeast DC. Me, not so much, right? I'm just thriving through. But now when you go there, it's like one time I saw a white person come out of a brownstone in Southeast. I was like, well, where they do that at? Right? When did that happen?
That's all over Southeast.
I know it's completely different. Now you got the wharf. The wharf is all cleaned up. The wharf is like now it look like a place you want to go. It's amazing now.
Mm-hmm.
But I suffered the same culture shock because I had left DC and I was gone for like, I don't know, a while, like 10 years. And then I came back and it was, I was marveled at all the changes that happened. So, are you both originally from New York City?
No.
BenHameen is not from New York. I'm from East New York, Brooklyn.
Yeah, I'm from
right.
I'm originally from Houston, Texas, 3rd Ward, South Side. Yeah.
Right.
Home of Beyonce. It's cheaper.
Was it?
Yeah.
Did you move around a lot before you got to New York City?
I've lived let's see. I was born in Cheyenne, Wyoming. I moved to Houston when I was super young. Then I lived in DC for a good amount of time, and then I moved to New York, and I've lived in Los Angeles since then. So that's pretty much it for where I've lived, you know. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize you're broadcasting out of Los Angeles now.
No, I'm in Brooklyn. I'm out of Brooklyn.
Oh, you're in Brooklyn.
He's just talking about all the different places he's been.
Oh, right,
yeah,
right, right. Okay.
Yeah, I've been back and forth. Yeah, I'm in Brooklyn right now. Yeah.
Awesome. So shifting gears a little bit, who are your biggest influences as far as screenwriting and filmmakers?
Ooh, that's a good one. There's so many, but like what started it all for me is George Lucas. You know, it's George Lucas and then Spike Lee were the two, because Spike Lee was the first Black person I knew, and George Lucas was Star Wars, and it was like my sister says from like a toddler, I was addicted to it. You know, so that was pretty much it for me. Then writing and stuff, it's more than just screenwriting probably, but as far as screenwriters, the person who first made me really probably consider writing more than directing, because I always wanted to direct because of Lucas, was Quentin Tarantino. Because it was his words where I was like, wow, like that. You know, I was just talking about it today because I was watching a screenwriting thing by him on YouTube. So I was talking about it today, how I watched Reservoir Dogs, you know, stopped it, rewound the tape, and watched it again, like the first time I ever saw it. Like, I was like, this is something, you know. And then Kevin Smith is another one because I love his dialogue. But now there's so many, because now I've read so many screenplays and stuff like Sorkin. I mean, it just goes on and on down the line, you know, like, yeah, I could, you know,
yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah, I like Aaron Sorkin, but
yeah.
I know for me, I couldn't answer that question for you, because from a relative perspective, screenwriting and really studying that has been a new thing for me, right? That's maybe the last 6-7 years, right? Whereas I was started in the literary space about why I wanted to write, why I love to write. So it was more things like Octavia Butler, sci-fi, things like that really got me into Isaac Asimov, like things like that got me into really loving storytelling. And then through BenHameen, really just learning about how to craft that to a screenwriting perspective and scripting and things like that. So that's still something that I'm developing.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'd say the same thing too, because I didn't start I've been watching movies and studying movies since I was a kid, but reading wise, I was reading stuff like Dragonlance, you know, a bunch of any fantasy novel I could get my hands on. And then just, you know, sci-fi as well. And every comic book in the world, you know, like my biggest influences are Chris Claremont, Peter David, Kieran Gillen, Christopher Priest, you know, down the line, you know, yeah, I already said Peter David, but yeah, you know, those are my biggest is comic books, Hickman, you know, everyone out there right now, probably.
Yeah. I like the first two. The other ones I'm not as familiar with, but I like Chris Claremont, Peter David, and I also really like John Byrne. And those are the ones that I really like writing. I mean, he might be. I don't.
I love Byrne as an artist though. His old stuff, yeah. Byrne. I mean, I grew up on Byrne. He was God. Right. But no, you got to get up on the new people like Hitman is like, just he's revolutionary, one of the best.
Yeah. And Tatiana, I'm thoroughly impressed that through you, I understand that Asimov is still having an impact on younger generations.
Big time. I mean, you still have stories. I mean, you still have influence, obviously, but and this is like what 15 years old now. Oh my God, like iRobot, like speaking of Will Smith, but like things like that, like they're still making stories based off of his stories. They're still making movies and screenplays, and there are elements that are inserted into lots of sci-fi, anime, all types of genres across the board and mediums across the board that you see to this day. So always will be highly influential.
Let me say one more, just because I just want to say his name whenever. Dwayne McDuffie, the creator of Milestone. And also for his influence on Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, because I just think that is some of the best storytelling in, the history of storytelling. Justice League Unlimited is it's one of the best things ever created. So Dwayne McDuffie, rest in peace, is definitely one of the, just God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I concur. I remember when the Milestone comics came out, and I was like, I want to collect all of these. I'm too poor to collect all of those, but I gave it my best effort. I at least had, I don't know if I still have them, but I at least at one time had the first issues of all of the Milestone comics.
Mm-hmm.
And then as my money ran low, I couldn't continue to collect every single one of them. But yeah, those comics were impressive. Well, I thought I really liked those. My favorite was Hardware. I really like the chain around the butt. That's high fashion, I must say. So I understand that For All Nerds was formerly the Fan Bro show. So how did it come to pass that you two, DJ BenHameen and Tatiana King,
Tatiana Ali too, yeah.
Ali,
I heard it. I'm just messing with you. Good, you doing good. I'm just messing with you.
Well, how did it come to pass that you joined forces and bring those two shows together? And how did it eventually become For All Nerds?
Sheer luck and blackness. That's how it came to pass. BenHameen was
ain't nothing luck. Everything is
everything is meant to happen. What a dusting of luck, because it was lucky that I saw his post on Twitter one day many years ago looking for female commentators to talk about pop and geek culture. Well, really comic books initially, because the Fan Bros, as it used to be named, was stemmed from Reggie Osei, Combat Jack, rest in peace always, and rest in power. This was kind of a spinoff of his main Combat Jack show, where he wanted to talk about one of his greatest love, which has always been comics. And obviously DJ BenHameen, he was part of that crew along with 11 other people. Lots of work and talking went into that. And it ended up being a point where Combat gave the reins to BenHameen and said, look, man, I need you to grow this, make something out of this, make me proud. And that's what DJ BenHameen did. This is what BenHameen did. This is he went out and first of all kicked out all the 11 men that were on the podcast and installed just two men, him and Chico Leo. And then he brought on women, because of course he said, what's the point of being in a room full of men where you have all of these? I mean, it's an echo chamber, but you just don't have the holistic view of comic books and geek culture. You need the female voice there. So he put out a call to like an APB online. I saw the call. I knew him from his Please Don't Stare website. Like, that's how I was getting music. That's how I was getting music ahead of everybody on when I was at Howard. And
that's so wild.
Yeah, it is wild. But and he probably he probably wasn't even paying attention to his website. But anyway,
I was paying a lot of attention, but not enough, because I wish I knew you then, boy.
Yeah. So it was myself and another woman named Jamie Rigetti. We answered that call. We had, we basically tried out, did a whole episode. Our first guest was, who's our first guest, BenHameen?
Prodigy, I think.
Prodigy.
He was our first
Prodigy.
Guest.
Prodigy from Mobb Deep, rest in power. Yes. So that's so wild to be thinking that that was the first guest and the first time I was really on a podcast like that. And I was just sitting there like, what do I do? But apparently it was enough. So we ended up all clicking. And obviously there's been many different iterations throughout the years in terms of hosts and format and all this other stuff. But fast forward to where you see now, which is For All Nerds. So it's myself and BenHameen. And obviously we have a rotating cast of sometimes special guests, but always a special co-host, I should say, but always great guests from across pop and geek culture, across entertainment. And as we said earlier, that's what we talk about: comics, movies, films, TV, gaming at times. We talk about the whole nine yards, and we just do it from the perspective of two people who are he's my brother, right? And the way we talk is apparently very entertaining, and that's why we're still doing what we're doing. And it's just natural conversation between us that as you mentioned, you vibe with. Zoe, you understand, you wanted to have that chat with someone who was like-minded, or and when I say like-minded, I just mean just liking similar things. Can have different opinions on it, as we're going to talk about soon, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I mean, you pretty much summed it up. You know, everyone always asks why did we change from fan bros to for all nerds, and that was just because, as you see, it's not just bros, and we were never just bros. Like, you know, from the gate, like Tatiana said, it was me, Combat. I think Matt Raz was there. Was Ty around? No, Ty came after you, right? Ty came after, yeah. So it's just me, Combat, Matt Raz. Rest in peace to my other brother, Sean Price. He was there early, and Chico was there. Joe Illidge was a tryout. Shout out my other brother Joe. And it was just like, yo, there's way too many dudes, dog. And so I immediately, you know, put out the APB, and me and Tatiana knew each other. By that point, we knew each other through Twitter. I didn't know she'd be on my website since before that, but you know, I knew of her through Twitter. We were each following each other, and Jamie Rigetti, I knew through like friends of mine, but we'd never met. But I knew Jamie was a singer, so I knew she had a good voice at the very least, and I knew Tatiana knew what she was talking about as far as like tech and geek shit in general. So I was like, come through. And they came through, and it was one of them, you know, magical things. It's like, because those four of us with Chico I consider all of them my family, like, to this day, you know, and forever. And that's just how it is. And it's just been dope. You know, we just keep going, and we expand to do a bunch of other shows. We have Views from the 616, our Marvel focused show. We have Castle Black, will be returning this summer for the Game of Thrones. We had the almighty motherfucking Safe Negro Pod.
No.
Yeah.
Rest in power.
Rest in power to Lovecraft Country. Rest in power to Safe Negro Pod, boy. But yeah, so, you know, it's just been a great thing, and I just love doing it. So I'm happy to be here.
That's pretty awesome. There was another question that had kind of popped up and then disappeared. So I'm just going to skip right past. Maybe it'll come back. Because sometimes that happens. But as far as the writtens go, where did the AKAs come from?
It wasn't from Desus and Mero. Shout out to our fam, but it was not from them like everybody seems to think it is.
From us. Love.
I don't know who got it from who, really. I don't know. Yeah,
I think everyone got it from each other. But the point is,
I know we did it from Combat.
Right.
Combat did it on one of our first shows. He was like, "Oh, no, man, we're doing a superhero show. What's your AKA?" That was like the first show we did, and I was like, "I ain't got no AKA," and you know, it just started from there, and then it just became where we got to have the fly ass AKAs, and look, I've heard a lot of different shows out there with AKAs, and I ain't get it from y'all. I know that much.
What I wanted to say to that was that came from hip hop. That didn't come from anybody having a show except for Combat, right? Like this was his brainchild. So that didn't come from another podcast, because we were a newer podcast at the time. There were no other podcasts that prevalent like us at the time that we knew of. We were all discovering each other pretty much at the same time.
Yeah, and also, like you said, that's from hip-hop. That's from, like, Wu-Tang Clan, when Raekwon dropped Only Built for Cuban Links, on the credits, it had everybody like Method Man, a.k.a. Johnny Blaze, Ghostface Killer, a.k.a. Tony Starks. And so that's where I always knew that from. That was like, that's just hip-hop stuff.
It's funny that you say that, because as you were speaking this, I remember when Boys and Men came out, and they also had like alternates.
Oh yeah, that goes back to like like the old soul groups. They would have AKAs on their joints. Like that's all. That's old game. That's just that's ain't nothing new about it. But as far as podcasts,
All right. So this is for Tatiana. So why Grand Duchess of Tech? And I think I know the reason why, but for our audience, why are you the Grand Duchess of Tech?
I'm curious. What do you think the reason is?
Well, I know that you're a tech journalist, so I know you've written a lot about technology. I'm assuming consumer products and things of that nature. You've probably done some tech reviews in written form. So I am guessing that this is why you are the Grand Duchess. Am I correct?
100%. That's the answer.
All right.
And I love technology. I love learning about it and teaching people about it, like how to use new tech, and just answering, like, kind of demystifying all of the the expertise behind it, if that makes sense. Like all of the wild words that they use, I'm like, okay, this is what they're really saying. So that's where that name comes from.
Right. So have you ever considered being a like a YouTube tech reviewer?
I considered it, but it requires to actually record. And that's the battle to fight, right? Like, do I want to be on camera talking to people about this? It's typically the answer is no. And that's why I haven't done it. Right. And that's also why I wrote instead and continue to write instead, because that's my lane. Will I be on camera and do that stuff? Maybe, but I am not saying yes as of today.
And the reason that made me think of that is because some of my favorite videos were the ones and like I didn't even realize I was attracted to watching tech review videos until, you know how YouTube just throw stuff at you, and I was like, I want to see what this guy is like. I was considering that phone. Let me see what he says about that phone, or that weird device that he's got, and now I'm semi hooked on it, right? So I watch like 3 or 4 of them a week or something like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know all of them, not all of them, but many of them personally. Like, just a few of my peoples. I don't know this next one personally, but NKBHD. Like, I love his videos. Like, you know, Marcus Brownlee. Like he's great. He's probably the best one in my view, just in terms of tech journalists or tech reviewers or anything like that. But yeah, there's definitely a big appeal there. It's just that it's another level of considerations and work there, and I'm already pretty busy as is. So.
Yeah, I feel your pain. So BenHameen, I was curious about your thoughts on so this is something you don't have to answer if you can't. But given that you are a writer on American Gods, I was curious about what your thoughts on Orlando Jones' exit. Do you believe that the writers were diverse enough to write his characters? Yeah.
Wait, go finish.
It's almost like you're answering the question for me. Do you think that he had too much influence on the writing regarding Anansi?
Ooh, that second part, that's interesting. He didn't have that on us. You know, when I was working there, we didn't have that issue with Orlando. I mean, I've known Orlando since before I worked on American Gods because of, I think we interviewed him, right? That's how we first became cool.
That was maybe the third time by that time. We had interviewed we had interviewed him twice at the minimum by the time you started working on that show.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. Yeah. So we were already tight, you know, pretty much. Like when I got the gig, he was so excited for me, and we were hanging out in LA and stuff. And he'd always be like, yo, what's going on? And, you know, I'm like, you know, and so and so that was our relationship. I actually blabbed to somebody else. I got in trouble. I got drunk at a party and told Liv Striver, right? I told him all about
Liv.
Yeah, I told him all.
Sabretooth? You talked to Sabretooth. Oh, God.
I mean, yeah, but you know, he was the leprechaun. I told him all about what our plans were for the second season. I got in mad trouble for that, boy. They were
You're talking about Leprechaun, you're not talking about Liev. I forgot what his name is, but
Striver, yeah, that is.
But his name is, it's not Lee. Okay, we'll talk about this later, but it's not Lee.
Okay, yeah. Well, the leprechaun. I got drunk and told the leprechaun a lot. Yeah, I got drunk and told my mans a lot. He's Master Chief now. He's actually playing Master Chief on the new Halo show.
Oh, that's what's up.
Yeah, so that's
Pablo,
right? Liv is his brother. Is that what it is?
I don't know the relation, but Liv is Sabretooth. That's why as soon as you said that name, I was just like, why was you telling him his business?
They're brothers. Yep. That's what it is. Yep. Okay. So back to the thing. We never had that issue with Orlando, and no room is ever diverse enough in Hollywood. You know, that's like, I saw one recently though. I think it was Southside, and I was so impressed. I was like, wow, that room is brown.
I think that's why it's so
that's why it is what it is, because that was like, our room was very diverse. I would give it, you know, to Michael Green and Brian Fuller, you know, that I owe them for life. And our room was super diverse, and they took a lot of chances with us. And, you know, it was one of the illest experiences of my life. So yeah, I have no problems or, you know, nothing bad to say about that.
Right. Yeah. So that's awesome. So you've already told us all of the podcasts that you're currently on. So do you have any other things you want to plug, like any websites or any social media handles, your store, anything you want to put out there for our audience where they can find you, or maybe get some of your merch?
Yeah. So patreon.com/for all nerds. That is for people. We're an independently funded media brand, meaning we do everything ourselves out of pocket. So that's why we have a Patreon where our fam, as we call everybody who supports us, to help us do things like produce shows, to pay for our engineer, our social media manager, like our team that helps us just keep the brand going, keep it going strong. We also have our, as you mentioned, merch, tpublic.com/stores/for-all-nerds. And that's where you can get a variety of really fire designs. You can put on t-shirts. I almost said book cover. Yeah, I think you put it on a book cover. You could put it on phone cases. You can put it on masks. I mean, honestly, you could put these designs on everything. You have a variety of options, but that's another great way to show your support. I'm actually rocking the For All Nerds title shirt. BenHameen is wearing the Mohawk Storm on a motorbike. That was a collab with Sketch Sawyer, the artist. That is an exclusive design, meaning you cannot get that design anywhere else with anybody. It's only on the For All Nerds store. And of course, you can get a variety of colors and styles, t-shirts, hoodies, this, that, and the third. Then, of course, we are on every podcast platform imaginable. There is nowhere where you cannot find us. So people follow For All Nerds. And that's also how you listen to Views from the 616, which is our Marvel-focused MCU podcast. And that's where we talk about movies, the MCU movies, the Disney Plus shows, anything that's around Marvel. That's where it's going on Views from 616. That's also the name of the social media handle, Views from 616. And then obviously at For All Nerds. And I'm at Tatiana King, and this man down there, or to the left or the right, whatever you see him,
is at DJ BenHameen on pretty much everything as well.
All right.
And hold on, let me add to that, because I promised y'all listeners, well, I didn't promise y'all, I promised you, Zoe, off air that we would discuss how we met. And
oh gosh,
before you do, there's one more thing.
Before that, even
okay,
Twitch.
Right.
We're on Twitch,
Yeah,
twitch.tv/for-all-nerds. We live stream every week, at least once a week, sometimes more. I know BenHameen, he live streams his gaming all the time, and sometimes he has DJ sets as well. He is a real full in the flesh DJ, so he does do his thing on there. And of course we are on, I mentioned Twitter, Instagram, we're also on TikTok. And I think that's everything, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to mention Twitch.
All
okay.
right.
But yeah, all right.
Oh, no. One more thing. YouTube. If you miss anything on our Twitch, and whenever we have like just kind of original videos or interviews or anything like that, they go on our YouTube page. So youtube.com/for-all-nerds-TV, or you can just go and Google For All Nerds TV and it'll pop up.
Yep. And now I can make this segue work, because we're also on all social medias at For All Nerds. And on Twitter, we're at Views from the 616 as well. That's our Marvel-focused podcast. And if I remember correctly, Zoe, one of the first times we communicated was when you questioned the name Views from the 616, because you actually me and said that at the time, the MCU wasn't referred to as the 616. It was some other designated number. And I was like, well, it just sounds fly, Zoe. That's what matters. And then, well, actually, in No Way Home, they confirmed that this is the 616. So we were just ahead of our time. And
Well, I didn't. Well, once you said that, it sounds better. I think I was like, okay, that's fine. But it was like I just let it
acquiesce.
Oh yes.
I'm doing that. I just said I'll just let it bother me, and then it'll eventually go away. My only point was that like 616 is the comic universe.
We know.
Yeah. So
that was the other thing. That was the other thing, Zoe, and that's what I always want to like. I want to tell this to you and to every listener, to everyone out there. We know. We don't get into this just to do it. Like, I am a head, my man. Like, I've read too many comics. It's bad. you know?
Yeah. And also like we're human. There's going to be a misstep of the, a misplace of the tongue, a misplaced name or word or who is this? And we'll correct it when we can. It's one thing to correct it to be like, oh no, it's like the whole Liev Pablo thing. Like that's one thing, right? Like there's another thing to be like, well, this is what happened because XYZ is like, bro, I'm pretty sure I read that book like 5 times. So.
But yeah, that I just want, just for all the actually people out there, be easy. Like we're out here just doing this. We do this for fun. We're not like trying to be the end all be all.
No.
And a lot of times it's slickness. Views from the Six is Drake, where Views from the 616, it was just that slick word talk, and that's
like that's what we do. Like, that. So like we're here to entertain, right? Like we're going to give you facts and stuff, but we're also going to get that joke and we're going to let these jokes off. Like that's what we do. And that's why I imagine why so many people are here and supporting us and keeping us going. So appreciate it.
Absolutely. So BenHameen, anything else you want to get off your
chest? No, bro. I mean, you've definitely tried to actually me a few times, but I just want to let y'all listeners know I'm not here for it. Like your man Zoe be trying to come at people like, well, actually, and I'm like, bro, like 90% of the time I've thought this stuff through too. That's the other thing, like especially with our shows, like our review shows, we really go in depth. We really think this stuff through. It's not just saying things off the top of our head. Like I know we got into it before about the magical Negro when we called Monica a magical mommy and mammy.
When she was giving off mammy vibes because she was.
I stand 100% by that because it hurt my feelings. Like I was distrusted with the writers and how they treated her character in those final few episodes because it was like, wow, this is some trifling ass ish. And and
that's all to say. Still love for you, Zoe.
Yes,
that's why we tell people to their face what's up. Like we tell the creators, the writers, stuff of their own work. How we feel about something. Especially, I mean, we've done it as he just mentioned with.
That's how I got on American Gods.
Things like WandaVision. It's like, hey yo, I don't know about this, fam. You know what I'm saying? So.
Straight up, that is how I got on. I'm not gonna get into all the details, but I told somebody exactly how I felt about their work, and that's how that's what led to my relationship and everything. So
right. Well, it's obviously it's nothing personal. I just I love this stuff too, and I like to voice whatever's bobbing inside my head. Just to let you know, it's not personal. Everybody can get it. I got the Will Actually gun and I'm pointing it at everybody. So it's just
put the Will Actually gun away. That's what I'm telling you. Put the gun away. Don't do it. Yeah, just conversate. You don't have to. You can. And that's the thing. I'm always out for conversation. But when people come at me with the well, actually, I'm not down for that because it's like, nah, fam. That's look. I said what I said. Like that,
right.
Like we could talk about it, but I meant what I said.
Right. But yeah. And I understand what you're saying. It's not just about like comics or anything. It's I get into political discussions and science discussions. It's everything.
Yeah.
I admit it's a problem.
Discussion is fine. Yes.
Right. So anyways, so upcoming as I promised is we're going to have the Book of Lies promo. And then right after that, we'll be doing the opening credits.
So did you hear about Jen Shaw?
No, I didn't hear about Jen Shaw.
How about Erica? You hear about Erica?
I don't think so.
What about that fraud shit from the other day?
Can you be more specific?
There's so much fraud out there and so much shenanigans. You should just tune into Book of Lies podcast.
Book of Lies podcast.
Every week we talk about some fraud, some scams, and maybe even some TV shows.
Where there are scams.
Yes, of course. Scams, frauds, and all those things. So tune in every week where we'll bring you a new topic of...
Scams?
That's right. Scams.
So tune in on your favorite podcatcher to catch up on the latest liars, cheaters, thieves, and dirty, rotten scoundrels.
That's right. See you soon.
Bye.
And we're back. We are here to do the opening credits. And the movie that we all watched just recently is the 1968 classic, Planet of the Apes. So I don't know which one you got yellow, which one you got blue.
I'll
but
do yellow.
Yeah. So yeah, start us off, Tatiana.
All right. So
what's the deets?
All right. So in Planet of the Apes 1968, the original, I've never seen it. So this was super brand new.
Oh man.
Hilarious. But anyway, we'll get into that. An astronaut crew crash lands on a planet in the distant future where intelligent talking apes are the dominant species and humans are the oppressed and enslaved.
That's awesome that you said you never seen it, because I watched this with Zach, and I expressly choose movies that he's never seen before, preferably before he was born. And this is slightly outside my frame of reference because I was born in 1971. This came out in 1978. So by the time I get to watch it, I'm just watching it as reruns on television. But I'm watching it at such a young age that the only thing I wanted to see were the apes. So I can barely remember like the beginning part, like the astronauts like in space. I have almost no memory of that. I only remember when the apes are around and they're pushing the humans around. I was all for it. Just more ape action for me and my brothers. So to continue, this movie was released on April 3rd, 1968. It was produced by APJAC, or is Apjac. I don't.
Yeah. So that means recent anniversary. What, I don't know how many years it's been since what. Who's doing the math? 2022 minus 1968. Go. But
I think it was either 53 or 54 years. I put it a post on Twitter because I watched it that day. You know how you're typing, like right after I watched the show, right? The movie, I started typing up these notes, and I put April 3rd, and then the autocomplete came up. It's like, why would the autocomplete come up? I was like, oh my God, it was today. They came out today that I watched it. So
pretty cool.
It was just a cool moment for me, but I think it was like 53 or 54 years. I can't remember. So yeah,
that was me too. I watched it yesterday too. Yeah.
Right.
Wow. Awesome.
So this is it was produced by Apjac Productions and 20th Century Fox. It grossed over $35 million, and adjusted for inflation, that's $272 million today on $5.8 million in 1968. Which today would be $45 million.
That was the budget.
And it had rave reviews. Oh man, is quintuple the word? No, I don't know how to say it.
Quintuple?
It grossed 5 times. Yeah. It grossed 5 times over its budget. It did extremely well.
Yeah.
They made 5 more of these joints.
Right.
That tells you how much it made. It made 5 more, an animated series and a live action television series.
Action television series.
That's how much money this made. All right, well, let's see. It was starring, and I do mean starring, Charlton Heston, the God, aka the Devil, as George Taylor. From everything, Charlton Heston, Ben-Hur, the 10 Commandments, Soylent Green, just classic after classic. He's also,
let me tell you, this is the first time I've really had like a long, I guess, prolonged watch of this man. Exposure. Yes, that's the perfect word. Exposure of this man. And that man got some teeth on him. That's all I got to say about him. Like, that's all I just kept staring at, like, yo, his teeth is just...
That man got a mouth.
Chompers. He got a mouth. But anyway, I'm sorry. That's not in his notes, but it's just, I just had to say that because it was distracting.
Wait. Let me just say something about Charlton, because this man is like, it's brilliant what he does in this movie. I have to say that. Like, he is so over the top. I mean, my man smoking a cigar in the ship.
That's what I wanted to say. You took that away from me, Ben. Like, oh my God. Like,
so this man is sitting there, like, giving you the most nihilistic view of life from Jet. Like, he is like, yo, everything sucks. Everybody's dead. Get over yourself. And then his like maniacal laugh. The zoom ends on him while he's laughing. Just it was just a lot. Like he just reminded me of like original Batman series villains, where it's just like you said, it's just wild OD, and it's just like, do you have to chew the scenery that hard? Like, yes, you do. This is what Charlton does, fam.
And, he made that he made it very entertaining. I will say that it was just wild funny, and I just like y'all was taking this seriously when did this come out in the 60s? Like, y'all was dead ass about this. Like, all right. I guess.
a lot of people found him hilarious even then. That was
Okay,
like,
okay.
he
Because I
was
was like,
definitely,
ain't no way.
no, he
Ain't
was
no way.
definitely bringing the comedy to that joint. Yeah.
All right. There's also Roddy McDowell, who played Cornelius. He's also played in Fright Night, A Bug's Life, and Batman the Animated Series. I wonder who he's was doing voice acting. I wonder which character. All right.
He has a very distinctive voice, and he played the Mad Hatter in Batman the Animated Series. So
Oh, dope.
And think about that voice. It's like, oh yeah, that's him.
Got it.
So next up is Kim Hunter. She played Zira. She was in A Streetcar Named Desire and lots of television credits.
Yep.
Okay.
Maurice Evans as Dr. Zayas. I can't remember. Rosemary.
That's how they said it.
Yeah, Rosemary Baby, The Jerk, and Bewitched. Wow, I'd have seen him without the makeup on. All these people, yeah.
Then there is James Whitmore, president of the Assembly, who was also in the Shawshank Redemption, Give 'Em Hell, Harold, and the Asphalt Jungle.
That's supposed to be Harry. That's supposed to be
Harry. Oh, I see. Give Them Hell, Harry, and the Asphalt Jungle.
Yeah.
Got it.
Right. Give 'Em Hell, Harry was a Harry Truman movie. I'm not familiar with any of these except the Shawshank Redemption. And he only had, I think he had a tiny role where he was the old guy that after he got out of prison, he killed himself. I think that was his character.
Oh, wow. Damn. Okay. All right. Yeah. Yep.
Moving right along. We have Linda Harrison. She played Nova. She was in Cocoon, Airport 1975, and Wild Bill.
She's wild hot. And I watched the sequel to this movie, and then I was reading some trivia, and she was so sick of playing Nova by the sequel. And I'm not sure if it happens as much in the first one, but her reactions shots in the second one are comedy. They are just, it's pure comedy. Oh man, because and she doesn't say a word through either of these movies. So yeah,
I'd be sick of that too.
Yeah,
I was dying at every. It was one scene where they was taking chompers away, and she was in her crate. She was in her. I call it a crate. She was in her cage, and man, she kept hitting her trying to hit her to go away from the bars of the crate, and she would duck and then be looking at him again,
yes!
and every time she would back up and go, and then start looking at it again. I just thought it was just so. Yes,
her reactions are hilarious.
Hilarious. Hilarious. I mean, no, this movie.
I need all the gifts of Nova. I didn't know I needed that until I saw this movie, but I need them all.
And I thought, like I said, even though this was for such long ago and it was the first time, overall, I understood the point of the movie and the story, and I thought it was a cool story. I thought it was good. It's so much, maybe unintentionally funny things happening.
Hell yeah.
So much.
Robert Gunnar is Landon. I have no idea who that is. Is that his man's?
That's a lobotomized man's. His man's that got lobotomized in the beginning or the middle.
He was a dick. He was in the Jackals and Frontier.
He was a dick because he said he was ready to die. He said, "I'm in this bitch ready to die." He was over it. I understand. Why was he a dick? Choppers was the dick. What you mean?
Choppers.
Yeah, thank you. That's what I felt.
At least Choppers was comedy.
Oh, Landon was too dramatic. He was too emo.
Yeah,
he was wild emo.
If you on a next planet, with nobody else, I need entertainment, and Choppers is bringing it.
And then we have Jeff Burton, who played Dodge, who was on Street Sisters, Coffee, and Get. Yeah. I didn't mean to say it like that. I just wasn't sure. Was that what it said? Man. Was that the black dude?
Yes, it was.
Okay,
look at that list of movies.
When you look at his credits.
The one
he came straight from blaxploitation.
Yeah, the one that was disrespected right from off,
jump
out the gate was disrespected. So
and all the way to his end.
Well, first of all, I was surprised there was a black person in this film, period. And I was just like, oh, they allow black people. Okay, cool. How they, it's the it's the 60s, but I still felt like they were still moving wild back then when it came to putting black people next to them in film. So I was surprised as fuck. But then when I saw how they was doing him, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is expected.
But see, that's one of the things we got to get into is how this movie talks about race and generational culture and it being part of the 1960s. And that is why there is a black man in the ship and why there aren't why
he dies first.
Why he dies first, why there aren't any other black people amongst the humans that they run into. there's a lot going on in this movie. Why, and we'll get it. I mean, I don't know when you want to get into it, because I'm always ready right now, but
Oh,
yeah.
Well, that's what I have the favorite part section for. So we're gonna get everything out of our system in that section.
Yeah. Directed by Franklin J. Schaffner, who also did Patton, The Boys from Brazil, and Ford Star Jubilee. I think I've seen parts of Patton. That's about it. Yeah.
I think everybody.
Yeah.
I think everybody's seen parts of Patton.
Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, that's about all I got for that one.
I recognize that, like, he's done some like well-regarded films, but like back for the 60s and 70s. And if you weren't doing some kind of fantasy angle, then I probably wasn't going to get into it.
Yeah.
So this movie was written by it's based on a novel. Here's the thing. I practiced this. It's still going to come out messed up. La Planète des Singes.
Oh, that's the one that was based off of?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. It's a French novel. It translates to Planet of the Apes. Somebody translated it to Monkey Planet, but and then eventually it got translated to Planet of the Apes. And it's by Pierre Boulez. I think that's how you say it. Also,
I'm
Michael
sure
Wilson.
French people everywhere hate you for your pronunciation.
Oh yeah,
so
absolutely. Michael Wilson, he did the screenplay. He also did Bridge Over the River Kwai, which is another book that Pierre wrote, and Lawrence of Arabia. And of course, Rod Sterling. He also worked on a screenplay. He's responsible for The Twilight Zone and The Night Gallery.
The man, the God, Rod.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Then we have music by Jerry Goldsmith, who also did he do the score, I presume, the score for Star Trek Motion Picture, LA Confidential, and Congo.
I mean, I got to say, the music was incredible. I actually want to go jam the soundtrack like soon, because that joint was fire.
The music was interesting. It was like certain times where it was like super layered, like when Teeth was running through the town, and like it was like
it has
the Congos was going,
it has
and
a clattering run,
going, and then there was just some like monkey sounds going, like, and it would just get progressively more chaotic. And it was like, okay, I'm feeling this. All right, I get it. Like I was with him.
Cools out right when it needs to cool out.
Right, like
well
I'm running with man. So I got how the energy, right? And then I'm all right, I see what's going. But it was very 70s. It was giving me very just action film, Banff type stuff going on. So. Yeah.
It's definitely not music that you're going to go to sleep to. That's for certain.
No.
No, I would be like, turn that the hell off. Like, it was just very, very like just, if it makes any sense for people who are like very sensory when it comes to music, it's very jagged, like in terms of, at least when it's supposed to be, it's supposed to make you kind of feel uncomfortable and out of place, because that was what was happening in those scenes where it is that frenetic, kinetic energy happening with that music. So it made sense. It made sense in terms of the way it felt and the way it sounded.
Definitely.
Absolutely. So that's it for the opening credits. If you're enjoying the show, remember that you can get t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, face masks, jerseys, and more at our website, backlickcinema.com/shop. Check weekly for new designs and products. Sorry, there hadn't been no new designs. Maybe a couple of updates. Dude is tired. That's all I'm telling you. Finally, I left the links. I finally put the links back up to teespring.com and tpublic.com on the page, in case there's any of the classic designs that you want to go and get from those stores. And that's about it. In particular, though, there's a pint glass that Teespring has. I can only find it at Teespring. So if you want the pint glasses, I have 2 available right now. Go to teespring.com. I have the links right there on the page where you can get those well-designed pint glasses. So I'm going to play a sound, and then after I play the sound, we're going to get into our favorite parts. And we're back. Now, DJ BenHameen, this is what you was looking for. We are at our favorite parts. You can talk about the themes of this movie, talk about what you like, what you didn't like, what rubbed you the wrong way. Let us know which your thoughts on Planet of the Apes.
All right. Well, first of all, like you, this is a film that I grew up like watching on TV. I was a big Planet of the Apes head. I remember at one point they did a marathon, and I got in a fight with my sister, I think, so I could tape all them joints. And I watched like all 6 of them, and they are terrible. A lot of them, like they get progressively worse. And for people who've seen the remakes, like the more recent remakes, those are actually based on like the 4th, 5th, and 6th movie. Like the ones where the apes are just coming up and everything. They do that whole storyline. They have Caesar, all that stuff. So those are actually based on that. It's interesting how
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I just realized that when I was going back and rereading the wikis, because I did not watch them all again. But I read the wikis, and it was like these are like the 4th and 5th one is based off the 2nd one, and then the 6th one is what they based the 3rd one off of. But it features Caesar. Caesar fights with the other ape, all that whole thing. Now back to this one and the original, and why I loved it and why it became such, especially as I grew older, because like you, when I first watched it, it was just like apes, fighting man, teeth wilding out, I loved all that, as a kid. And then when I got a little older and I started learning about the film and what it was really talking about, and I think even the book and, knowing Rod Serling, I don't know about the other homie, but Rod Serling was definitely super woke for his day and time. And the movie is implicitly about race and generational culture and what was going on in America at the time with Vietnam and this big, great youth movement. And that is like implicit in the movie. Like I said, there's a reason why there's only one black astronaut. There's a reason why when Teeth runs into the other humans, there's nothing but white people. There's a reason why the dark black apes are the ones who are the most fearful. And it gets ridiculous on point in the 2nd one, especially because there's like a scene where the last bastion of humanity is trying to fight and the apes are rushing them. So it's like this big black wave is rushing into the room, to overcome the white. Like it's all, and it's even said at one point, Zira, the doctor, is like, you look just like, all humans look alike to us.
Right.
Where is that from?
Yeah.
All black people look alike to us. That is what they're saying. And it's like, and then the youth stuff comes in with the nephew when he even says it, I'm disillusioned with the elder generation. I love that kid. And then when Teeth is leaving and he tells him, don't trust anyone over 30, which was a common saying in the Vietnam era of, don't trust anyone over 30. Like that's just, so this movie is based on that. And pretty much all of the sequels in some way or form are as well. And that was my problem, like why I don't really enjoy the new ones as much is because they dodged that bullet. They didn't want to go there because that's something that people in the 60s were going there. And they were saying, and it's like fear of a black planet, shout out to Public Enemy. That's what this film is really about, because it's like, what happens if black people get power? They'll abuse us like we did them. Knowing well that we don't, that's not how we roll, but that's their fear.
Right.
Projecting.
Yes.
BenHameen that was a really amazing, really poignant take on this film. My favorite part was all the unintentionally funny shit.
That's all there too. Come on.
Like everything, and it's so funny because BenHameen and I do this sometimes. We're like, is one of us is just on the one that's like on the serious tone about all of the depth and story behind it, and the other one's just like, look at his teeth. And,
I was crying through this whole movie too.
I was laughing, like everything was funny to me. BenHameen said it earlier from Jump Street. Man smoking the Black and Mild in the shuttle, in the space shuttle. I'm like, my nigga, what are you doing?
Yo, man's just stranded in the desert with no water, and he pulls out the black. Like, let me start smoking.
Like, are you serious? Them walking in the desert and say, "Oh, life," and then they proceed to dig it up. Why the fuck are you
right away?
Right away, just kill it. And I'm just like, there you go, humans being humans. And
but that's the other part of the movie. That's what they talk about too, as well. It's like it's about humanity.
It's a cancer on the planet. Humans eat up all their food.
My favorite saying in the world.
Yes. Yes, Mr. Smith. Yes, Agent Smith.
Yes, he says y'all destroy the jungle that y'all in, and then y'all come over to our stuff and ruin our stuff too.
So like that.
White people.
Again, Nova funny as hell with her reactions and her just being thrown about every 5 minutes. All they do is toss her ass all around the world, and she's getting tossed, and then it's always back like, "What's up, guys?" So that was funny. And like I said, of course, black man went down first. And the fact that they stuffed him like a taxidermy animal. And I was like, okay, lobotomized homeboy, nihilistic homeboy. And Charleston just overall, he just, man, again, that's why I keep calling him, like, he's just funny. And again, and I'm saying he's just over the top. And it's just like, was that what was bankable back then? Like, hey, yo, you know what? He reminded me of Nicolas Cage.
Yes.
On more drugs, right? Like just off, just OD on another level, just in terms of delivering the scenes, the laughing. And then they didn't make it any better with the camera directions, right? The zoom ins and the abrupt stops on things and like it was just a lot going on at times. And I was just like, the choices y'all made in this film. And again, and that's what I'm saying. I know certain things where I was supposed to take seriously, I couldn't, because it was just hilarious to me. Even how the lady doctor, how what's her name? Not Dr. Zayas, but Dr. Zaira, whatever her name is. The one that was calling him, the one that was first of all playing his life, calling him Blue Eyes.
Zeta.
Dehumanizing him off break. I loved it.
Yes.
But she was just saying the wildest shit, like, oh, look, he could communicate. Oh, look, he's trying to do what I do. Like, and I got it, like, from the philosophical level, what BenHameen mentioned. Like, I understood why they did things that way. But again, it was just hilarious. And it's
but you're so ugly.
And that's what I'm saying. There's some parts that were unintentionally funny, but I know or the team or whatever that was writing this was like, yo, we got to put this in here because we know we don't get this jokes off. So I know a lot of it was also to purposefully draw out some humor, like, oh, that seems so absurd. But then when you, as BenHameen is mentioning, when you then position that next to the real life commentary that's happened, it's like, oh, okay, I get what you're saying, right? Mm-hmm. Like satire, right? So.
Yep. And that's how you get it off. You know, that's how you get all that real life commentary off. You disguise it with apes and jokes. I want to ask you, because this is your first time ever seeing it, and it was still ill to me, even though I've seen it before. I was like watching it, like, as I was very paying attention to how they did it. Like the reveal of the apes on horseback. That shit was fire.
That was fire to me. And another point where I laughed because the way the camera, again, the choices, right? The directional choices that were made throughout the film and the cinematography. It was just, okay, you just see the humans running. Okay, fine.
Yep.
You see some stuff happening in the bush. You don't see who's making the ruckus. All right, fine. You see the horses. It's like, somebody, all right, it's about to be a wreck. Then they come up and you just see monkey faces, ape faces, and it's just, and then it zooms in at one point, and it goes, and there's an ape, and there's another ape, and another ape, and you can see that this is supposed to be from Teep's eyes, right? So he's like, wait a minute, what do I see? And then when they start talking, fam, and he passes out, I was rolling. Because I'm just like, you know, I might have the same reaction, bro. Like, that was too much for him. That was too much. Not landing on an alien planet, doing all sorts of wild shit, talking about check the atmosphere, but not checking anything else. Just swimming willy-nilly. Everything's okay. Not smoking the Black and Mild. But the apes talking was what set you off.
I love it how, like, he's like, oh, well, you know, look at these humans. We'll be running the place in months. Right? And then immediately here come the apes. Like
retribution. It's like, you shouldn't say that, fam.
Yeah, like immediately.
Yeah, they definitely their first reaction was first when they found life. Their first reaction was to kill it.
Yeah.
When they find their first reaction was to colonize.
Yes.
Like, oh yeah, we can colonize this with the heartbeat, right?
Yeah, he was checking it out immediately. He was like, all right, that's mine. I got that one, you know.
You dig up and kill the vegetation, and then you immediately think about colonization. Who is the villain here?
Right.
These guys.
That's a good point. Yeah. My thoughts were that Taylor was definitely the asshole in this movie, and it's like, and I couldn't get past it because he was like mean or sort of like the way he treated Landon was like ridiculous, right? It's like, you guys are in a spaceship together. You're like probably the last people on Earth. Why would you talk to him that way? It's like no like comfort or anything. It's just,
I loved it. That's another favorite part.
Nasty and mean spirited, right?
He was like, get over yourself, fam.
He read him for filth, and I was just like, oh, this is fantastic. Like, he was just like, and you're a loser, and you're no better than the lint in my pocket, and this, that, and that, and Mance was just like, get off my back. I really thought he was going to say, get off my D, but he was like, get off my back. So, you know.
That's all he had to, get off my back. And dude kept going.
That's all he had for him. And he was just like, he was just chastising, man. I was like, oh my goodness, but it was funny. It was so funny. It's just.
So me and Zach, we watched this movie together. You know, after he was done, it was, I was like, how you like? He was like, oh, it's boring. He's like, I just couldn't get over how boring it was. I mean, he made the same observations, like, you know, the teeth and everything. He generally liked it. He found the memes that he's enjoyed in the cartoons and other media that he likes. So obviously, like on The Simpsons or whatever, they're going to do a variation of Damn Dirty Ape. Yeah, and they're going to do the
doctor say,
you burned it all. You did it.
Oh yeah,
right. They're going to do that. So he found all of those, and then he saw the see no evil, speak no evil, hear no evil. He found all of that.
Yeah, right? I saw that. Yeah. Well, that's interesting because before I started watching, like as I pressed play, I watched this on Tubi for free, and as I pressed play, I'm like, this is about to be boring. But then, like all the funny, like ridiculous stuff started going off almost immediately. And I'm like, all right, I mess with it. So
right, it was definitely a comedy show, and it was weird because it reminded me of 2001: A Space Odyssey, and I hated that movie. I don't understand why people revere that movie. And the reason is because it is so slow. They have like those few scenes that everybody remembers from the movie. And I felt like they could have condensed that movie into a half an hour if they just kind of cut out all the boring parts.
They could have.
But and I think that because this movie is kind of similar in pace, it's only a little bit quicker. I feel like, I guess that's how they made movies about like science fiction movies. Right? They wanted people to take it seriously. So they took the movie slow, especially the where it starts off in the spaceship, and then when they land on the planet, it moves really slow. And even throughout, you know, after they're captured by the apes, it's still a slower pace than I would have appreciated.
Not gonna lie, I definitely scrubbed through them walking through the desert for 11 hours. I was like, all right, let's get to the point.
There was so much comedy in those scenes.
I definitely. Thank you for the 30-second fast forward feature, because I was just hitting that bitch like, all right, let's keep it going. Like, I get it. You guys are lost in the desert.
He was eating them up through that whole time, too. It was great.
And falling down sand dunes. And okay, my guy. And trying to find stuff. I was just like, we got to go. So.
And then
I'm like laughing at him all up. When he put the flag down and he just like
he laughed at him. Like, why was that such laughter? He was like, you buffoon. Like, again, ate these people up for those for those.
Right. And so and it's funny, right? Because he was riding Landon, but he kind of left Jeff alone. No, not Jeff. I'm looking at the wrong one.
What's this guy? Detour.
Landon. No, not Landon.
Dodge.
Oh yeah, Dodge.
He ain't messing around with the black man.
He didn't mess around with Dodge. I think you said they gave him a bad rap or whatever, but I felt like they didn't really mess with him. He looked like he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
He went ahead, like he was actually scouting ahead. He was the Pathfinder. So he felt very confident to me. Right?
Yes.
And
they made him do all the work. That's what my point is. And he died first. Everybody, you telling me all them people's running in the fields, and he's the one that catches the bad one in the neck.
He was the only black guy. He was an easy target.
Even Teefus got shot. Teefus got shot in the neck, but he survived.
Yep.
Yeah, they
them
all
teeth blinded them.
Yeah, they all did some work, like and basically
right. Yes.
Taylor was bossing them around, but so he tried not to do nothing.
Yeah,
right?
and that's what I got out of it. Like, they're a team, and everyone had their jobs, and everyone had their roles, and they were just used to it. Because the way that the banter, like I said, Charlton eating them up, the banter, the ignoring him, the leave me alone, like it just seemed like they've been working with this man for 20 years, and he's just been an a-hole the whole time. That's the other thing. Black man. The
black man and the woman. Like, can we talk about how they sent
the
this ship out?
Get nothing off. Like, do women speak?
No, not Nova. The woman who died in the ship.
No, I know. I'm saying in aggregate, when the non-ape women, do they speak?
Not much. And
none of them do.
That's saying that's another message. And that's the thing. Like, think about it. They sent the ship out to colonize something, right? And there was one.
Yeah, that's
woman,
the weird thing.
One woman with three dudes.
That's what I was thinking. Here's the thing, right? One of the things that I had noted was that one is like I like the multiple layers, and one of the layers, the first layer that you encounter is a misogyny. So they put one woman with three men. Now, technically, that is how you would do it. You would have like a woman, and you would have multiple men to spread the genes around, because their children, they're going to have to also multiply some kind of way. So you don't want one woman to one man. You would want one woman to multiple men in order to spread the genes. So it kind of makes sense. But why such a small crew? That doesn't, and why her only purpose was to breed with these men?
And that's what I got. And I'm glad you said that, because
Charlton's teeth even made a mention of it.
Didn't Charlton say that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
That is exactly where.
And that's why I purposely it wasn't until this moment 2 seconds ago that you talked about the purpose of the trip. It never dawned on me what the purpose of them going to space was. I didn't realize that's what it was. And then I listened to what Charlton said, and I said, wait a minute. You mean like it's, to me, it did not sound consensual whatsoever, right? He was just like, oh, when he was talking to Nova, he was like, oh yeah, you're the only one I got, because it would have been homegirl, she's smarter than you. And then he talked down to her of that. He's like, she was way smarter than you. Yeah. And it would have been gotten hot and heavy. Some wild shit he said, it would have been hot and heavy with the three of us. And I said, in my head, I was just like, what is he talking about? What is he implying? Something? It just sounded like he was implying something else. And that's why I would just started questioning, wait, what was the whole point of them being there or leaving Earth in the first place? Did they explain that?
It's kind of unclear, because it's like they were supposed to come back, but they also knew they were going to be gone forever.
To do what? Were they explorers? Like what? That's what I'm saying. I don't understand.
I think their purpose was to explore, but they were so far out, but by the time they get back to Earth, they knew that they would be thousands of years into the future, because as they were traveling, they were already, like, the first time you look at the clock before Taylor.
There was already another century.
It was already 2,000 years past, or 5,000, something like that, or 7,000.
No, it was 1972 when they left, but then the thing said it was like the year 2073 or something like that.
So yeah, it was like 1,000 years ahead. Because they ended up like 2,000 years ahead.
Yeah, it was like 2,000 years ahead already.
Yeah.
Well, they showed Earth time. That I think the conceit was that the time that they showed on the dial for Earth was the current time on Earth. Like, that was the time that Earth would be if they were still there. And then they showed the ship time. What the time would be traveling near the speed of light. So that was a conceit.
Okay.
But I think that the only purpose was to explore, try to get to another planet. I don't know if they intended to go back. And if they would have went back, it would have been a completely different world.
And if their purpose was just to explore, and with the intention that they're going to return at some point, what was the whole thing about at least she's there, we could get hot and heavy with her? What was he talking about? Like, that doesn't seem like that's part of the mission.
I mean, no, that was just like they're going to explore, and if they're going to be there going that long, you're going to have to make kids, like you're going to be, because you're going to be going that long. Yeah,
no,
it was super grimy. It was like, but that's
thank you. That's all I want to say. That's grimy, and I did. And when he said that, I was like, "Excuse me, what did you just say?"
But that's part and parcel of the whole movie. Is like, this movie is talking about all these things. Women's, at the time, the women's movement was huge. So it's like all these things are being mentioned and brought up in this film.
So I'm guessing
a scumbag.
There are two possibilities. Either they were out exploring with the intention of returning, or they went out exploring and they were going to colonize, but it's weird to colonize with such few people. So it is very vague.
The reason why, and maybe, hell, we don't have no understanding of the technology on the ship. Maybe there was a replicator for all we know. The reason why I'm like, there's no way they were meant to stay out there, because they only had supplies for 3 days. If you're meant to stay out someplace for a long time and you trying to abandon
the ship had more supplies, though. Remember that the ship probably was ready.
Did it have more supplies, or was it just emergencies?
So. No, because they were trying to save the ship. That was the point. And then I think the ship was meant to
go
land.
back. Why else would you try to save? You know what I'm saying?
But it's also, but you think the ship probably was meant to land. Probably had all the stuff you could build out with it. Probably had the replicator, etc.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Okay, all right. Yeah. Shady.
Yeah, I mean, it was hella shady. Don't get me wrong. That's what the movie is about. How human beings are hella shady.
And the other thing that kind of hit me hard was the anti-science and how it was used in this movie, or the anti-intellectualism, as Isaac Asimov might have put it. So, and at the end of the movie, it kind of makes sense, but it kind of parallels what's happening now, especially with with COVID or with anything, women's reproductive rights or anything like that. You try to present them with the science of the facts, and then the politicians will flip it and basically ignore the science and try to pass whatever laws they feel is that'll satisfy their agenda or satisfy their base voters,
right?
And ultimately not good for humanity. So I got that feeling watching while like the two doctors were trying to convince the council about like what they found in the forbidden zone and evidence of a prior civilization, all that kind of stuff. And the council was of two minds. First, it was like, well, that's not what we don't believe in science. That's not what our science shows. And then they'll say, and it goes against the sacred text, right? And then the head guy that was in charge of the science was also the defender of the faith, which seems to me counterintuitive. Even they said it, but that's how he was rocking.
No separation of church and state.
And that was the point. Yeah, well, once again, that's the point. It's like these guys are keeping everything and they're determining what faith is and they're determining what science is. So how does that work out?
Well, it's kind of understandable when it gets to the end.
Yeah, but that was like also the point. Well, like the thing is like they're trying to hide the fact that humans were there before. They're trying to keep apes superior because like everything, it's one of those things where it's like, They put the apes as black people, but you have to look at the actions of both people and it's like this thing is really talking about humanity and it's talking about race. So it's talking about humanity as humanity is like, like you said, ignoring science, ignoring, that. And it's like, well, let's stick our head in the sand. And then it's also talking about how, with like a conquering civilization has to keep the truth hidden. They can't let that get out that, no, these people have an ancient culture and are, superior to us.
Yeah. I want to also add that it's also about subverting the truth through they're making up, like they're saying, oh, this is science. But then what did they call it? They called it, when they said that, oh, you can't say that, like that humans, there was a history of humans. They called it some type of heresy, right? Yeah. And that word itself was an oxymoron. It was just like, scientific heresy. That's what he said. And I'm like, heresy is used like in religious context, right? What do you mean scientific heresy? Like just that approach and that like it was, the whole thing was, as you say, it was double speak, right? Like it's like you're saying this thing, but it doesn't make sense and it's contradictory in and of itself. And so that, that idea of using that, which is still used to this day, was used centuries ago, is still being used. The aspects of religion to come down upon people, to enslave people, to everything you could think of negative. That's what these people in power would use. They would use these different either religious pretext or science, eugenics. You know what I'm saying? Like just to say that, oh, well, this person is inferior to you, or these groups are inferior to you, and this is why, and this is how we prove it. And it's really at the end of the day, it's all about power, right? It's all about the control of knowledge, the control of information, who gets to say that what information is real or true. And that's the battle we've always been fighting. And it's just, if you look at it in today's view, that's the fever pitch that happened, at least publicly, as far as 4.5 years ago. That's the fever pitch that we came upon, where it was just like, what is real and what's happening? Disinformation.
Right.
Yep. And it's like why this movie is so relevant right now is because we're in that same type of revolutionary time where people are questioning the systems that are going on around us, and it's huge upheaval. And that's the same thing that was happening in the 70s. And it's like, America repeats itself for one, and the world repeats itself because we don't learn from the history. And so, every time we make a liberal step, conservatives push back, and these same things happen again and again and again. And that's why this movie is still relevant to this day. And that's why everything they were talking about still seems like, well, they're talking about that right now. And I think that's the last thing I want to say is like what we were talking about earlier is that whole projection thing is really big in this film, because it's really about like white people projecting upon the apes, like this is what black people would do to us. So it's like they're in power. They would destroy anything. They would make sure that we, never had a history, that it was only them. And it's like, that's what y'all did to us. Like this is already, this is what y'all have done. And so how they show the apes acting is how they act. And that's what we've seen throughout history.
Right. But also, and I feel like at least from their perspective, I can understand what they were doing, because like at the end of the movie, I guess it's Dr. I don't know, whoever that head science ape was.
Mhm.
So that was the one that they kidnapped at the end of the movie. And then that's when he finally said, well, yeah, I know what the truth was all along. I knew all of this stuff. But there's a reason why we have a forbidden zone. There's a reason why we don't allow apes to come out here. There's a reason that we shut down discovery of prior civilizations. And that's why he told Teef that, like, you can go on, we're gonna let you go, but you're probably not gonna like what you find. And so the apes knew that, because their society is at least 2,000 years old or something like that. So the apes knew that humans blew up the planet, and now the apes are the primary species. And so they're like, but there's still a few humans around. So it was like, well, if we're gonna maintain a peaceful planet, we can't ever let humans be on top of the food chain ever again. We can't ever let them be the dominant species, because they blew up the planet before, and they're just going to turn around and do it once again, right? So that's why, the famous ending of the Planet of the Apes, where Taylor finds that his spaceship made a giant U-turn, went right back to Earth, crash landed, and then he finds the Statue of Liberty half buried in sand, because they blew it up. Like you said, they blew it up, they messed it up, and wiped out humanity's chance for prosperity.
But once again, that's what, I mean, it's like a lot of that is what, white people, capitalism, society has done, throughout history. Like, that's not what indigenous people do. Like, indigenous people have always lived within nature, while, this capitalist society we live in has been the opposite of that.
Yeah, the problem is capitalism, because it's based upon infinite growth, but that's impossible, because it's, one person described it as a pyramid scheme, which it's never going to work, because there's a finite number of people on the planet, and there's also finite resources. Like, corporations can only continue to grow as long as that people keep having babies, but it gets to a point where the planet can't support that many people, or at least certain areas where these people live at can't support that. And I seen a video talking about how the war in Europe affects all of the African countries, because Russia is attacking the Ukraine. Then the world puts sanctions against Russia, but Russia is a huge supplier of grain and wheat. And so is the Ukraine. The Ukraine obviously can't really do it. So it's something like some countries are like 50%. Some people get 80% of the grain from the Ukraine. And if they can't get it from there, they got to get it from other places. And other places is going to be way more expensive, because you got to travel across seas instead of just taking the land route or something like that. And that's going to affect other countries for decades, right? So it's almost like a cycle. This is what capitalism really encourages events like this.
Yeah.
So you got,
damn you all to hell.
You got any other comments? Oh, I got one more comment. Did you notice that the mannequins in the Natural History Museum in the movie, that they were real people trying to be still?
Yeah, I noticed Black dude was shaking when he was looking at him. Man was shaking hard, boy.
Like
yeah. My man was just slowly vibrating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I saw it was supposed to model how we put the ape models in the Natural History Museum. So I thought that was interesting.
All comedy. Yeah.
It was hilarious.
Then it's funny, because Taylor didn't realize that he was back on Earth until he reached the Statue of Liberty. But what I'm wondering is that why, when he got the QB doll and he found the dentures from a human, did he not realize that this is Earth stuff?
He was starting to then.
How about this? Why didn't he ask when he first landed and actually started the conversation with homegirl, who was clearly open to telling him anything, Dr. Zyra, whatever her name was? Why did he just say, hey, what's the name of this planet? Where are we right now?
But they don't know that. Yeah. They don't call it Earth. That's the thing.
They don't even even have a concept, right? They don't have a concept of the planet, because when he's trying to tell them that he came from out of the sky, it's like, what are you talking about?
That's right. They don't believe flight is
possible. So they've never even seen the whole planet. They don't know. Yeah, they don't even know where they're at.
They don't even have their.
It'd be something else. Ape planet.
A different name. Okay. Yeah, Ape planet. Like indigenous name for the planet that they're on. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. I'm not even sure if they've eventually done astrology, because ancient people
perform astrology.
They did astrology, but they refer to, I don't know if they refer to the planet, the land as a planet, but when they refer to it, they would call it land or ground or dirt. That's where we get the word earth from. You know, where you at?
Terra.
Where right.
But
Terra,
but they did. I mean, certain ancient cultures did know the circumference and everything of the earth by, you know, once they'd figured that out. They'd measured the earth and they knew it was round, etc. But that's also why it's like that. It's all forbidden knowledge. When dude went to study, they were like, nope, shut that shit down. Yeah. Because they'll find out that we're on Earth. You know, that's what it was. Yeah.
Oh, that reminds me of something else that I thought was very funny. When they were pulling out and just doing inventory of all of their supplies, why was a pistol one of the supplies? What makes you think? And I understand, like, that's just how it works. And
that's
and
how
in the context,
get down.
And in the context of what BenHameen's saying, that's just how we get down. But how you know that's going to work in outer space? How you know on a different planet that is even going to do anything for you?
We
know?
We gonna find out is how they think.
we gonna see, right? Like, this pistol, I got it, like immediate, right? Like,
you never know. Better to have it and not need it, than need it and not have it.
Yeah, their whole supplies were whack. For one thing, they got like metal backpacks. Like why metal backpacks? Doesn't make any sense at all. They could have made it from some tough cloth, just like their spacesuits are made from extremely durable cloth. They could have made the backpacks out of the same material.
It was clearly for the aesthetics, the reason why it was metal. And
apparently,
speaking of aesthetics, even though he got the bad one at the end, I loved how after they got naked and their clothes taken away from them, the black man definitely got that fit off. Like, that they only had them pants on. He had the whole draped color, the yellow color, cape on. He got that drip on, and they was wearing these rags. I was just like, that's hilarious how he's the only one who had style.
Right. And then there was there were mismatch supplies. Like usually when you go on an expedition, everybody has the same thing.
Stuff, right?
Everybody has water. Everybody has a gun. Everybody has like whatever food packets or and then some people like specialize, like the black dude. I forgot what kind of scientist he was, but
all the sciences.
Yeah, he had the equipment for his job. Landon had the equipment for his job. Like everybody had their own equipment, but for whatever reason, everybody had mismatched equipment, and somebody had water, nobody else had water. Somebody had food, nobody else had food. It was like, that was just dumb. That's not how you do.
Trust, I'm telling you, on that ship there was like 50 more guns. Like that.
Guns. It's like
probably still wasn't enough water, but there was more guns on there. I promise you that. Like there was way more guns on that ship.
And Tatiana, to answer your questions about if they knew the guns would work, if they could stand on the planet without any problems, and if they could breathe the air, then the guns would work. It's at that point, it's just physics.
It's not just physically work. I mean, how you know it's gonna work against whatever you're shooting?
We gonna find out.
Oh, I see. Oh,
we gonna find out.
I see what you're saying. How do you know that they're not bulletproof?
Well, we gonna see.
You know that these don't matter to them. How you know they go filthy human? Get the fuck. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know.
They might be energy creatures, but we don't know that.
Right.
You're right. Right. We gonna see, as BenHameen said. Pull out the Draco. I get it.
We gonna find out.
Like DJ BenHameen said, we're gonna fuck around and we'll find out.
Yes. I mean, that's why I loved it. That was like, we got the get. Like first, make sure we got the get. You know how we get down. Like
colonization, killing all the plants, bringing the guns.
First things first, folks.
All right. So, man, that was great, and I'm going to awkwardly transfer over to the trivia. So right after these sounds, these musical tones, we'll be getting into the trivia segment. All right, we're back. And now we're going to get into the trivia graciously provided to us by IMDb. I'm going to start us off with interesting facts about the film, and this some of these things may answer some of your questions if you hadn't perused it already. So during the breaks in the film, the actors made up as different ape species tended to hang out together. So gorillas with gorillas, orangutans with orangutans, and chimps with chimps. It wasn't required; it just naturally happened.
Because people are racist.
Pattern matching.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. Roddy McDowell, an experienced actor, recommended to his companions in makeup that they should frequently add ticks, blinks, and assorted facial gestures to add a sense of realism and keep the makeup from appearing mask-like. And I will say that for that time, I did see enough emotions come from them. Like there were some actors where I'm like, that's a mask they're wearing. And there were some where I'm like, okay, that's really good makeup work. Like you could tell with the vast majority, I would say, it felt like, okay, they were really truly these characters. And you did see some of them was making the faces and some of they were very expressive, more expressive than I would think would happen back then. And with that level of effects and detail. So they did pretty good.
Yeah. Roddy McDowall and the female, what's her name? Zira, whoever plays Zira, Kim Hunter. They really did the work, especially Kim Hunter. Like you can really see her expression come through the makeup.
Yeah.
It was very good.
The eyes were the key to it all. And that's like when like they would be like really bright and then everything, you know, the whole mass or just the features and even the structure, like you can even see whatever material was made out of it still had enough give where you can see, like even just now, like people looking at us, if anyone's looking at us, like, you know, when I smile or frown or whatever, like it matters, right? Like all the facial cues do give you a story or a window into what the person's really thinking and feeling.
Right.
All right. McDowell reportedly became a merry prankster with the makeup, driving home with his makeup on and shocking some of the other drivers on the freeway. A few years back, actually, me and my crew did Planet of the Apes, or we got the latex actual makeup that you can get, and we all did that for Halloween. And it's pretty much the same makeup they were using back then. It's latex appliances that you stick on your face. And it's so fire. Like, that's still one of my favorite. I want to do it again because it's so ill because you get all the expressions. People can see your expressions. And we walked all through Manhattan. We went to a party. We did it up that night. And it was pure comedy because we were up in the club just aping out.
That's funny. I was going to say BenHameen would definitely do something that he would do what McDowell did for sure, but he already technically did it.
We did it. I was in the empanada spot afterwards. We were doing it that night, yo. It was great. Ape all night, yeah.
That's awesome. So was the mask and makeup, was that uncomfortable in any way?
After a while, yeah, but it was so much fun that I didn't mind it. And I've always done a lot of makeup for Halloween, so that wasn't something I wasn't really. But it's definitely on your face. You feel it on your face. But I like it better because it's not something you can wipe off or anything. You know, you stick that stuff on your face and it stays on.
Right. So while doing the Planet of the Apes from 1974 television series, Roddy surprised Carol Burnett when he showed up on the Carol Burnett show, the family / bus stop / brief encounter in full Galen makeup while she was taping her intro talking to the audience.
That's awesome.
Okay. The see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil gag was entirely ad-libbed on set the day of shooting. It was kept in because people find it amusing when the film was threatening to get too serious. I really did like that a lot.
Yeah, comedy. There were 3 other endings suggested for the film's climax, but the one favored by Charlton Heston ultimately won out, and that's awesome because it's the classic. And I also know a bit of trivia because he signed on to do the second one only if they would let him get murdered off in it. And then he actually rewrote it so that he can stay around to the end and blow up the whole planet like he does in the second one. Spoiler.
Oh my.
Spoiler alert. Second one. Yeah, the second one is so grim, dog. It ends with like the whole planet gets blown up and then it ends with a black card and it's like, and a voiceover where it's like, in the billions of galaxies in the universe, there was one planet, the third one, a small insignificant green planet, third from the sun. It is now dead.
Okay.
The credits roll. It is so dark. I was like watching it again. I was like, yo, imagine being in the theater for that. You know, like,
right.
That's amazing that they did that. Like, grimy.
You was in the theater for that. We called it Endgame.
I'm about to say Endgame. I literally was about to say that.
Endgame was dark, but you knew there was something else. This was like they blew up the planet. There wasn't nobody coming to save these cats.
Right.
It was over.
Nobody was coming back. Right.
Nobody.
At one of the first test screenings, a woman walked up to Charlton Heston and asked how he was doing. Heston had no clue who she was until she revealed that she was Kim Hunter, who played Zira. He did not recognize her because he had not previously seen her without ape makeup. So I thought that was funny.
Well done.
Yeah. All of the ape actors and extras were required to wear their masks even during breaks and in between shots because it took so much time to make them up. Because of this, meals were liquefied and drank through straws.
Yeah, I can attest to that. That's how you have to eat. You have to eat with straws, because like when I was eating that empanada at the end of the night, the shit was like falling in the mask. You know, it was bad. Yeah, it was bad. Like it was time to
ew either way.
It was time to take that joint off by the end of the night. Let me tell you that. Yeah, definitely go for straws. Allegedly, Jerry Goldsmith wore a gorilla mask while writing and conducting the store to better get in touch with the movie. Yeah, that man's racist. He also used a ram's horn in the process. The result was the first completely atonal store in a Hollywood movie, which it is most definitely atonal. And that's probably why I love it, because a lot of hip hop music is super atonal, and you know, I can get into that.
Charleston Heston was sick during much of the film with the flu. Rather than wait for him to get better, the producers felt that his hoarse voice added something,
right?
added something to the character of Taylor. According to Heston's diary, after filming the scene where Taylor and Nova were forcibly separated, he wrote that he was feeling like hell while shooting because of his illness, and felt even worse every time that damn fire hose hit me. And I can imagine.
First of all, this is clearly before the age of COVID, because I have the flu. Let's just keep working. Yeah, why are you here, sir?
Yeah.
But
right.
Listen.
And then speaking of the fire hose, you know who they use fire hoses on.
Right.
You know, like that. All this is intentional. You know?
Well, they also use fire hoses on animals, so I can see, because this is also
they use it on black
cruelty.
People, folks. They use it on black people.
Because they treated us like animals.
Yeah, let's keep it a fuck. They were using it on Charlton because they use it on black people, not because they use it on animals. Yeah. That wasn't, they weren't like, oh, remember the animals? No, they were like, remember the Negroes.
Remember the Negroes. Oh my God. Okay.
In the second film, the only black person in the second film is named Negro in the credits.
You're lying.
I am not lying. The only black person in the second film is named Negro in the credits, and this is another trivia that I found out. The screenwriter said that he did not mean it as disrespect. He often labeled characters Negro because in later films there's a Negro scholar and a Negro doctor, I think. And
they're just not scholar or doctor. They're Negro.
Well, I think he wanted him to be black, which was like him trying to, put black people in the film. It's like one of them, like, he was trying, but you were almost there, fam. Is
that the time period where a white non-black person calling Negro was correct? Accepted?
You were called a Negro at this time. Yes, 100%. Yeah.
Okay.
Black people call you Negro. White people call you Negro. Yeah.
The United Negro College
Fund was popping.
Well, that's different. Right. It's not when other black people are using it. I'm talking about non-black
white people call you a Negro. I mean, you called yourself Negro. It's like it wasn't like the other.
It was.
That's not my point. I was just curious during that time period, because now, obviously nowadays, if a non-black person uses that term Negro and not in a sarcastic,
if a black person uses that term, it might be beef.
When black people use it, more often than not, is used in a comedic, sarcastic tone. They're not being serious about it, which is why a non-black person uses it in this day and age. It's a problem immediately. That's why I was saying I was curious. And back then, was Negro the acceptable term? Just like how there was an evolution from the immediate N-word to black person to African American back to black. That's why I'm just curious.
Negro was in that lineage.
It's in that lineage. Okay.
Yes.
You are reminding me an episode of Good Times. It was either Good Times or it was the Jeffersons. So in the Jeffersons, they had that exact conversation.
They did. Yeah, because he didn't want one of them wanted to be called African American.
Yeah, he wanted to be called
Afro-American.
Afro-American. That was another term that was
Afro-American.
The young kid wanted to be called black because I think the dude was like he was saying Afro-American.
Yeah.
And the kid interrupted and said black.
Yeah.
It was Jefferson's son.
Yep.
He said black, and then that's when he says, like, I went from colored to Negro, and then I went from Negro to African American. So you're gonna have to excuse me if it take me a little more time to go from color. Well, what is African American to black? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was the question I had because I know that there's been a lineage, and typically it's what white people or non-black people decided to come up with to express this ethnicity. That's why I was just like, they were saying Negro like that, that was the term. But okay, just checking. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, like listen to old Richard Pryor comedy, and he always has like white people talking about, what are the Negroes doing, Rich? You know, stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's like,
All right, let me.
His white voice is the best.
What are the Negroes doing?
Yeah.
All right. In the original script, the female native humans were all bare-breasted. This idea was quashed by Fox to appease censors.
Yes, that was smart.
Yeah, Fox is like, nope.
That was some grimy ass director. Like, what if they're all naked? Yeah.
Not only do they not have lines, they're going to be half naked.
Yeah, it's like the director was like.
So instead, we got the booties of Teeth and his friends.
There you go.
Full on nudity.
Full on ass for y'all.
It was full on ass. I don't think it was frontal, but
but you got that ass. Oh no, there was that was
that scene when they were bending down.
Yes, thank you. Like I know that was intentional. This man,
that was intentional.
They're naked and they bend down in front of him. Like
first they're all standing there, and then and it was so slow, and it had to be intentional. And then Charlton's standing there like he's standing there, and the way the camera's positioned is cameraed right above his crotch. And then you see the two men go down very slowly, and you just see the top of their heads, and they move a little bit, and they don't say a word. You just see movement. I'm like, they did that on purpose.
They had to. Oh my God, that's just
another funny point. Like I said, this whole movie was hilarious. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna put porn music over that shot. Like that was, or like Pornhub, so like the little Pornhub logo in the corner. Oh man. All right, let's see where we at. Turning down the part of Zero was one of Ingrid Bergman. Wow, greatest regrets. Ingrid, the legend.
Who's that?
She's a legendary actress. Much surprised at how well the finished film turned out, she later confided to her daughter, Isabella Rossellini, that in hindsight, the film would have been an ideal opportunity for her to disregard her regal bearing. She also regretted missing the opportunity of working with Charlton Heston.
What does that mean? She was like a princess or something?
Yeah, Ingrid was like, she's a, bit old school actress. So she's, that like all the old classics, And
she was like, she's old Hollywood type. Yeah, I thought she was being like literal. She came from a dynasty or something.
No, old Hollywood. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So producer Arthur P. Jacobs enlisted several journalists to play background apes. This was a clever way to ensure that they would write about the film.
God damn, I love Hollywood.
That was actually really clever.
like grimy shit in Hollywood is always like, I love it.
Yeah.
He was definitely worse back then.
Yeah.
Like especially grimy.
Yeah.
Kim Hunter reportedly found the facial ape prosthetic so claustrophobic that she took a Valium each morning while being made up as Zera. After a while, she didn't think she needed the pills anymore and went one day without one. After the morning's makeup session, she thought she did fine, but her makeup artist threatened to find someone to replace him if she didn't start taking them again, as apparently he became exhausted from wrestling with her the whole time. Damn.
Yeah, look at that.
You ever fall asleep when you're getting your hair cut or at a hairstylist?
Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I very, very huge problem with me because they're like, will you please hold still? Could you wake up?
You can't do that.
I was like, I'm sitting because being in the barber's chair getting a haircut is so relaxing, right? You just don't realize you're sitting down, you're dozing off, and then they're moving your head around trying to get you to turn your head so they can give you a proper cut.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
No, when I'm getting my hair twisted, I've definitely fallen asleep many a time doing that.
Yeah.
All right. When Franklin J. Schaffner came on board as director, he grimed it up. One of his first acts was to reimagine the ape society. In the script he was given, the apes lived in a high-tech world. Schaffner wanted it to be more primitive. This also helped to significantly reduce cost. Yep.
Makes sense.
He was like, I can't afford this.
Yeah.
So it was one of the 2 G-rated movies to feature nudity. The other being The Bible in the Beginning from 1966. And finally, in 2001, The Space Odyssey was released the same year, 1968. I put that last one as a note to myself because it was remarkably so much like 2001 that I thought that it was a copy, but apparently that was just the style of filmmaking back then.
I can't believe this joint was G-rated. Like, they shoot the black man. That says a lot.
They shoot the black man. They
does
have
that
full-on nudity.
Yeah, does that mean the censoring board was more lenient, or
they were like, oh, good honestly, job.
To me, there was nothing in there. I mean, when you look at it from today's standards, there'd be people clutching pearls all up in arms, blood. Oh my God. But I'm like, in reality, it wasn't that big of a deal. Like you know how, like, especially Americans, they just make things seem so like much bigger than they are. Whereas like if you go outside of the country, it's like, especially things that it's not even about sex, it's about sexuality. It's just like, oh my God, can't let the children see that. And it's just like, it's human nature. Like, it's normal. Like, it's nothing sexual about it, right? It's just like, that's a person. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just seems to me like it was just because during that time, like, it was just more acceptable. It was lenient. And then what was the line that got crossed where they were like, oh no, we see a drop of blood, PG-13.
Yeah. Right. That is wild that this was rated G. I was surprised by that. I don't get it, actually, because it seems to me that back then they were way more strict. Like, you know, I it's like everything I've seen that.
But they weren't.
You think they were more strict back then than they are now?
They're much more strict now. That's what it is. Think. Because one, we didn't like. Remember, PG-13 came like in the middle of this. It was like PG movies back in the day were grimy. You know, you could get away with so much in a PG movie that you cannot now.
Yeah, and this is rated G, though.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. If you can get away with that much in a PG movie, in a G movie, you can shoot a black man.
Right. And like I said, that won the show.
That probably just did. That probably got them their G rating. They were like, "Oh, you shot a black man? G." General audiences, everyone needs to see this.
Nah, it was because them he probably got someone in the ratings board in the movie too. They were like, "Oh yeah, just give this man a G." Just
And Charlton Heston was getting away with anything he wanted at that time.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So, I think that he was rather surly because he was sick for most of the film. And it was like, cause when I read that, I was like, well, that'll explain it. Because he was hyping up the acting. I think maybe having the flu kind of, threw him off as far as his acting. That's probably why he overacted to compensate for being sick. Like, he didn't want to appear sick. So he had to appear like whatever emotion that the script called for. So
he didn't always act like that. I thought that was that's
he kind of overacts a lot.
That's why I just thought that was him.
And it's also the time people overact. It's like different styles of acting were more prevalent. Whatever. And but Charlton has he eats screens up. That's what Charlton does. Okay. Them teeth are there for something.
All right, so that is it for the trivia. We're gonna, after this note you're about to hear, we're gonna transition over to see what the critics think. And we're back. Welcome to the segment where we talk about what the critics think. And as I perused the internets, the critics at Rotten Tomatoes gave it this 86%. The audience score was 87%. And on IMDb reviews, it has an 8.0 out of 10. That's one of the highest reviews on IMDb I've seen for any movie.
Yeah.
So that was actually a pleasant surprise, I should say.
Yeah.
So, Tatiana, if you could let us know what the first couple of critics thought about this movie.
Sure. John Mahoney from Hollywood Reporter said, by its appeal to both the imagination and the intellect within a context of action and elemental adventure, and its relevance to the consuming issues of its time, Planet Apes is a rare film which will transcend all age and social groupings. And then Renata Adler from the New York Times said, it is no good at all, but fun at moments to watch.
Wow.
That's very different viewpoints.
That sounds like something you would say almost.
Pauline Kael of the New Yorker says, this picture is an enormous many-layered black joke on the hero and the audience. I didn't mean dark joke. See how black, so trifling. Anyway, and the audience, and the part of the joke is the use of Charlton Heston as the hero. Yep. I don't think the movie could have been so forceful or so funny with anyone else. Facts.
That would have been 100%. My review.
100%. Yeah, me too, for real. Yeah, because I love the multi-layered, and it's so funny. Dennis Stack of the Kansas City Star says Planet of the Apes may have worked as a novel, but as a movie, it is a spectacular and ludicrous failure. You're a hater, Dennis.
I think people just taking it too seriously. I think anyone who watches this as a critic watches and it's like, this is a failure of cinema, blah, blah, blah. I just think you are just, as BenHameen said, you being a hater, you taking it way too serious. Like, you can see, I mean, it's obvious what the storylines are about in all the different ways. And the fact that we just had, like, yes, we got these jokes off, but we also had a very particular conversation about all the different themes present in this film. And we were able to pull that out, you know, casually watching it on a Sunday. Like, why couldn't you? So that's, you know, when I see stuff like that, I'm just like, all right.
I think a lot of them did pull that out, and that's why they were mad too. You got to remember, you know.
Oh, they were like, "Oh, why isn't this so much more serious?"
No, it's like no, they were mad because they were being challenged. You got to remember, a lot of not a lot. All of these critics are white people at this time, so they're all being like, "Oh, you know, there's a lot of that too."
Are these reviews from that time, like that time period?
Yes. Some of these are from current time, but I didn't make a note of it. These are all from
because the only reason why, because there's no way Rotten Tomatoes would have had say 87% back in 1968.
No, there was no Rotten
didn't
Tomatoes.
exist. So yeah.
Right. So like,
well, some of these people are still mad then, and still mad they were being mad they were being challenged then. Yeah.
And what I think is also some of these, like with this, is such a negative review. Is that some people, because this movie was so popular, I think that they got to be contrary. It's like everybody's saying that they like it, so I'm gonna say something contrary to get some
get some views,
to get people to read the article, right?
Get some paper buys. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
All right. So finally, Pat Graham from the Chicago Reader, he wrote this dismal FF deep think from 1968 that gave birth to an equally dismal string of sequels and a TV series spinoff.
I
mean, how dismal was it that they had all of these spinoffs though? Like, it could have been that dismal. Someone was enjoying it. And you can say that about a lot of things that really are truly bad. I just don't think this fits that bill.
No.
Right. And Roger Ebert from Chicago Sun-Times, he has my heart. He's one of my frenemies. I've been watching him since I was a wee tyke. He wrote, it is quickly paced, completely entertaining, and its philosophical pretensions don't get in the way. And here's what I'll say about this. You lie like a sleeping dog. This thing is not quickly paced. This thing is slow and it drags on. It's like when Frankenstein chases you. That's how quickly it goes along.
But it's not that long, so it is pretty quickly paced.
It felt quickly paced because I kept pressing the fast forward button, so it was fine.
Absolutely right.
It was fine.
It does take a long time to get to the apes. That's the difference. It's a lot of time to get to the apes.
Right.
And in modern movies, you would see them in the first 15 minutes.
It didn't bother me that they could have been doing something else besides walking in the desert.
This is true.
You know, and then that spaceship ride, there could have been a lot more action going on inside the spaceship.
Look, like my man was smoking a cigar.
He had a black and mild. That is a relaxing time of the trip. Right. That is not to have a lot of rah-rah going on. You are relaxing with your cognac at that point.
Right. So
I'm smoking in a spaceship.
Like, come on, bro. With a gat in the drawer, like, come on, my guy.
Right,
living on the edge.
With the woman scientist sleeping in her chamber talking, and he thinking, I can't wait to get some of that.
Yeah. Gross.
He was so grimy.
He couldn't get it. He couldn't stop talking about her. Yeah. That was supposed to be our Eve. I'm like, come on, man.
Yeah, when he said that, I was like, you're being weird now, sir. And it just got worse from there.
He's already been weird. This is just on brand for him at this point.
So that's it for the critic review. So finally, Planet of the Apes is, as of this recording, available on Tubi. Next week, we begin the Spock trilogy within the hexalogy of the original Star Trek films that features Mr. Spock's death, resurrection, and redemption. The first of the series is Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan.
One of the greatest films ever made.
Yes, it's great. I'll say this now, and I'll probably say it again when I record this next week. I was watching the film, and I'm starting to tear up and whatnot. My mom looks over, it's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah.
It'll get you.
Because for real, Spock was my favorite character. So yeah, and then you can follow us on Twitter at Backlook Cinema, or on Facebook or Instagram at Backlook Cinema Podcast for updates. Don't forget, you can contact us with any questions, comments, or suggestions at fanmail@backlookcinema.com. Do you guys have any additional plugs that you want to mention at this time?
Not especially. I think we mentioned everything about the show. I do want to say happy born day to my brother Mellow Marketer.
Yeah.
Me and him are working on something that, what can I say?
Nothing.
I can say we're working on.
You're working on something. You're working on something that's important to the culture. That's what you're working on.
Yeah, that's about all I'll say. You know, let's keep the suspense going for a little while longer.
Yeah.
Here we go. But it's dope and fire.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just the only thing, thank you for having us. Appreciate you. Like I said, we're going to come at you. You come at us, but it is all love. So thank you again. And thank you. That does mean a lot. That, I mean, you at the top, you said, oh, like we were heroes in ways. So I appreciate that. Like that really matters. So, and it makes me more humble about what we're doing and why we made For All Nerds in the first place. So thank you for having us and even thinking about us and bringing us on, and really appreciate the time here.
Word. And
absolutely.
Yeah. And I agree with everything you just said, and especially even though, because I know we get into it sometimes though, but you know, it's all love, you know, definitely. So thank you for having us for real. And this was great. This was really fun to be in here.
Thanks. I really appreciate that. I'm trying real hard. I don't know if I'm doing it right or if I'm doing it wrong, but I'm going to do it some kind of way and just get it out there.
Do it.
Yeah.
Right. And thank you so much for appearing on the show. I was just listening to while I was driving one day, and you guys put the chat. I was like, you know, if you want us to be on your podcast, I was like, I want him to be on my podcast.
Well, here we are.
And I did not know it was going to happen. And here it is. And thank you so much. I very much appreciate it. I ain't gonna lie, when I was sitting down getting ready to record, and the little voice in the back of my head is like, how are you gonna mess this up? But no, I'm not gonna mess it up. Go back to where you came from, evil voice. So go. I'm glad we was able to do it. I very much appreciate you. So one last time, if you like this show, then please take some time out of your busy day to subscribe to the show, rate us, or write a review on Spotify, podchaser.com, or Apple Podcasts, or your favorite podcast app. And I know you've enjoyed our guests, so please listen to For All Nerds or Views from the 616 and watch them on twitch.tv/forallnerds. Believe me, it matters. Be safe, share a movie from yesteryear with your family, hug your loved ones, and if you're going to be anything, be outstanding.